Hello, good morning, and welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory, and what you just saw was the incredible art that people made last week when we kind of regressed, and Ed Emberley guided us through drawing aminals, and that was lots of fun. Welcome to the land of leaf blowers. Yes, our gardeners are back, and you will be enjoying their mellifluous background accompaniment through today's episode, meetup, broadcast, show, hangout, scene, thing. If you've never been to Draw With Me before, let me explain how it works. We hang out, we chat, we draw. I do a drawing, I show you what I'm doing. You do either the same drawing, another drawing, or you just sit and, have a cup of coffee. Whatever you want to do. It's all good with me. Kosha, hello. It's nice to see you. And to see so many of my other friends out there, Janice and Catherine and Joy Marie and Joanne and Debbie and so forth. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Let me tell you a few things. So one thing I've been doing recently is I've set up this thing where people can text me and I can text them back. And it's been kind of fun, kind of amazing. It was a daunting undertaking at first. I was like, well, how's this going to work exactly? But I think I've been a fairly good correspondent. I send out today I sent out a reminder about Draw With Me. But generally I send out, recent drawings that I've done or stupid dad jokes or kind of interesting things I've come upon on the internet, whatever. And I do it a couple times a week. So if you'd like me to send it to you and you live in the United States or in Canada, just send any random text to this number and we'll get going with that. So that's one thing. And, I'm enjoying it. It's sort of like my own personal Instagram connection with you, except we get to talk to each other back and forth, unlike with Instagram. So, and what else? Oh, yes. Every week I write an essay. Every week. I think I missed 1 week. And that was because it was Christmas? No. I almost missed last week, but I didn't. Anyway, every week I write an essay and I send it out. In the old days, I used to blog. Old days. Remember back in the... actually, I started blogging at the turn of the century, just about. And I kept it up for a long time, and now I've sort of decided I'm going to email people sort of blog posts, and I write about all kinds of stuff, junk. Maybe some of you are getting them. A bunch of people are. And a lot of people write back to me, too. And I write back to them, and they write back. It's just, yeah. I basically spend my entire day, every day, corresponding with people on my text and in my email. But, there are worse jobs that one could have. So I'm pretty fortunate. So that's kind of the situation right now in terms of my output and productivity. I have been drawing, I think, more than on average. I've been drawing quite a lot. Painting a lot, painting with gouache, painting in my kind of brownish sketchbook. You may have seen some of those drawings. And I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoy drawing too. That's kind of the idea. That's the whole point of why we're here, is to enjoy drawing. So what else? Oh yeah, I want to tell you about an artist who I've met in the last, earlier this year, I guess. No, not this year, late last year. At some point last year, I met Chris Kaler. And he is a really interesting artist, and I wanted to just share some of his art with you because it has been inspiring me recently. And this is Chris at, he is an illustrator, professional illustrator, and he draws for the New York Times, and he draws for lots of different magazines. He draws for ads, I think, as well. And he's a really great Instagrammer. He Instagrams like crazy. But he is one of these people you look at and you go, how is this even done? What is this even? I remember the first time I looked at it and I said, well, I guess this is all digital. None of it's digital. None of it is drawn with a computer. It is all drawn with a brush. These things look like they're kind of cool because they're in red and black, and apparently the red is just used to as a midtone. So when you submit it to a publication, they turn that red into gray or into whatever color they want to. But I mean, the guy draws everything and everything spectacularly. He even does calligraphy. Come on. Amazing. This is ink wash. So it's virtually a painting. He does stuff for Marvel. I remember when I was a kid, and I was obsessed with comic books, as a lot of kids are. And the idea of being an inker, I don't know if you know much about how comic books are made, but there's people who are basically the pencil artists who do the initial basically the compositions and the drawings, but then there are guys who are inkers, and these guys are legendary because they go in and they transform a pencil sketch into this kind of a masterpiece. So he does a lot of stuff for Marvel, and that is an amazing skill. Really powerful stuff. And so a lot of what he does, he draws. Sometimes he draws with just a regular brush, and he has studios packed with every kind of ink you can possibly imagine, and there's bottles of it everywhere. But he also draws with these Pentel, what are called Pentel color brushes, Pentel Arts color brushes, and they're basically like a brush pen. You probably, if you've ever tried drawing with a brush pen at all, it was probably a Pentel, because they're sort of the masters of this. So he's drawing all this with just this simple plastic pen. Yep, he believes in it. There he is. He's committed. He's got even a tattoo. I'm bringing Chris to your attention because he's going to be teaching for us. And first of all, let me tell you, as I may have said to you before, there are a lot of people who are great artists. There are a lot of people who are great teachers. There aren't that many people who are both, and Chris is, in part because he's a very nice and generous person, so he naturally is inclined to be a good teacher, but he is methodical and clear, step by step. I'm telling you guys, if you've never drawn with a brush, you've got to try it out, because the thing about a brush is you have, there's a demonstration that Chris showed me where he took a brush, one of these brush pens, and he drew a hairline. So a line that was literally the thickness of a hair, like the equivalent of like an 005 Sakura pen. And then he took that same brush pen and he drew a line that was probably an inch wide, the same brush pen, and he can do gradations in between. So the thing about drawing with a brush is you have incredible flexibility. It's also very nimble and expressive. I mean, I've been drawing with a brush quite a lot recently for the last 6 months or so. And I like also the fact that you can draw swooping lines. I mean, his lines are very crisp. My lines, if you know anything I do, not crisp, but, nonetheless, there's enormous variety that you can get. So anyway, so his workshop, Drawing with a Brush, is coming up in a couple weeks, February 13th, Saturday. You can sign up for it if you can possibly read this enormous URL. But basically, go to our website. You'll see workshops there. There's special pens that he uses. You don't have to use them to learn these techniques. For God's sake, gardening man. Sorry about that. Yes. I think he's done. There are no leaves left here. Autumn's over, man. But they're still finding ones to blow. Anyway, so you can... we have a supply list with Blick. We're working with Blick these days, and they're giving us special ways of sending you all the supplies that you'll need. You can frankly just show up with a bottle of ink and a trusty brush, It's up to you. It's the, you know, if you want to do exactly what Chris is doing, then you can get exactly the materials he's using. But you know, I personally love Pentel brush pens. I just bought a ridiculous amount of them a few days ago, and I'm looking forward to them all arriving. They're not expensive. You know, brush pen is like less than $10, but it's the cleanest way. You don't have bottles of ink. You don't have to wash brushes. Anyway, what else was I saying? So yeah, so the workshop is Saturday, February 13th. You will have access to the files long after the recordings, long after the workshop. I believe for a year, so you can study and re-study everything that Chris teaches. And also on Sunday, February 14th. What is Sunday, February 14th, for those of you who've forgotten? That's right. It's my sister's birthday. Oh, what else is it? Oh, yeah, it's Valentine's Day. And what could be better than to fall madly in love with a brush pen and spend 90 minutes on Sunday, February 14th, showing us what you did with those? Because the feedback session is an opportunity to show Chris what you did and to talk about it, ask him questions. It's awesome. And to learn a huge amount of extra stuff, because you get to spend an extra 90 minutes. So we'll spend a few hours on Saturday, and if you want to, a few hours on Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's one of those workshops where you go, there's my life before this workshop, my life after this workshop, because it will really transform how you do stuff. All right. That is how we're going to spend. Karen is pointing out that it is the perfect Valentine's Day gift to herself. And I couldn't agree more. So, yeah, so hopefully I will see you there. It is, there's also, if you have signed up for it, we just finished making a special preparatory video that we'll be firing off to you, where Chris talks about how to get ready for the workshop, how to get your pens ready. Let's do a bunch of other little things. Take you about half an hour to do that stuff if you want to get ready in advance. A lot of people like to come to the workshop and, you know, just kind of know their stuff, maybe have a little pencil sketch. He's going to take us through drawing. He's going to give us a bunch of different photos to draw from, but he's going to draw from one particular one, which is actually of, it's like a cow skull, I think, which is actually a really cool thing to draw. I've drawn skulls before. I don't know if you ever have, but you can get really nice dramatic effects with, you know, they have lots of shadows and they have midtones. It's an interesting thing. But also I think he's going to give us some flowers and some other things to draw too. So lots of different stuff to play around with. And it will be fun to explore all that. Okay. Will Chris show us how to do calligraphy? No, Claire, he will not. It's called draw with a pen, with a brush, not write with one, alas, but maybe one day he will. But I promise you, your skull will be kind of starting to burst at the seams with all of the new knowledge you've gotten just about drawing. So I promise you, you will not leave wishing that there was even more to learn, because you will have learned so much. Okay. Okay, shall we start with what we're going to do today? I think we should. I think it's high time we did. Let me go to my desk light thing here. Okay, so, yeah. This is going to be a strange one. Let me come back to this first, okay? Here's what I have in mind. This is, by now, all too familiar. Yes. Hopefully soon we will not have this as a daily part of our daily lives. I imagine it will be part of our lives to some extent for a while. Walking around looking like Bane from Spider-Man. Anyway, here's what we're going to do. Remove the spectacles. Take the mask and put it over your eyes. Mine is black, so I cannot see anything. How many fingers am I holding up? No idea. 4. Wrong. Okay. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to, first of all, before you do that though, get a pen. What pen do I want? I'm going I'm going to be using my Micron 08. Okay? And then I'm going to switch to this camera so you can see my desk. Okay, let's see how this works. Let me show you a bit more of my thing. I can draw from here down to here. Okay, good. Now I'm putting on the blindfold, so I will no longer be able to see. Uncapping my pen. This is kind of difficult. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be drawing a self-portrait. For all of you who say I can't stand the sight of myself in a mirror, you don't need to see yourself in the mirror with this one. You just need. You can just cover your eyes and look, not look. Okay? You with me? All right, so I'm kind of using my finger to feel kind of where I am on the page. And now, but I want to start down here, actually. I'm going to draw what I imagine is the side of my neck. And then I'm going to draw my ear. And top of my head. Other ear. I'll guide you if you want. You can just listen to what I'm doing and do the same. Now coming down my other cheek, edge of my jaw, coming down to the side of my neck. And then there's my shoulder. All right. So I have no idea where I am on my face, but I'm now going to draw my eye. I'm going to draw my left. Is this my left eye? Yeah. What's the eye that's on the left of this drawing? So I'm drawing the top of the eyelid. Now I'm going back and drawing the other, kind of the general folds and wrinkles of my youthful looking eyes. Now I'm drawing the bottom. And then draw that little kind of bit right in the middle, next to the nose where there's sort of a little bit of redness sometimes. Now I'm drawing the pouch or bag under my eye. In my case, it's not really a bag. It's more of a steamer trunk. Now I'm drawing the line that is the inside of the eyelid, right? The eyelid has a thickness. I'm drawing that. Now I'm going to draw, that's where I imagine a few eyelashes go down the bottom. And now I'm going to draw the eyeball, not the ball, but the iris. And probably the pupil is around there somewhere. And yeah, so then now I'm moving up and I'm going to draw my eyebrow. Feeling paranoid all the time, like, oh my God, where the hell am I on my face? Oh no, but I don't know. All right, so now I'm going to draw the other eye. Again, I'm starting next to the nose, and I'm drawing the top of the eye. I'm going to draw another little line there, and I think I'm going to draw the eyebrow next. So I'm drawing this kind of crazy thicket of an eyebrow, and then I'm going to come down. You have an advantage over me, of course, because you're seeing what I'm doing, and I have no idea what I'm doing. It's probably terrible. So there's the bottom of the eyelid. There's a couple of eyelashes. I'm going to draw that little pouch underneath. And now the iris and the eyeball. Okay, so I imagine the inside of the ear is over here somewhere, I think. Other ear. I'm just drawing sort of like the squiggly bits inside. Now I'm going to try and place the nose. I have no idea where I am. All right. Okay, so I'm drawing the nose, and then I'm drawing the side of the nostril. Now I'm drawing the inside part of the nostril. And then I'm going to draw that little kind of divot that's between the nose and the mouth. And then I'm going up the other side. I'm drawing the bottom of the other nostril and the nasal flange, and maybe this line that kind of goes up the side of the bridge of the nose. Now I'm going to come down to where I think the mouth is. Oh God, I think it's off to the side. Anyway, yeah, and then the bottom lip, and then here is the sort of top of my chin ball, as it were. Now I'm going underneath the right side of my jaw. And now I'm going to go back and draw the left side of the jaw. Okay. And now I think I'll draw like a few hairs up at the top. Anything I want to add? I'm going to draw the shoulder. I'm going to do that other shoulder already. And yeah, okay. Good God. Kind of cool. That is strangely, it looks like me. Yeah. I'm kind of mesmerized by this thing. But I mean, honestly, don't you think it does look weirdly like me? As if I'd been sort of exploded with a Picasso bomb. So, did you try it? Why don't you try it now? Now that you've watched me humiliate myself. If you haven't done it already. It looks like some of you have, which is great. But Robert asked if this could be the real me. It's true. Thank you, Kosha. Yeah, I don't know why it does look like me, come to think of it. Like, it actually looks like me more than a lot of self-portraits do. But anyway. Okay, so now what I was thinking is, this is kind of cool. I was thinking, like, to just use this as a thing to play with. You know, to just use it as grab a bunch of art supplies and just start having at it. And just play around with, just using it as sort of the basis for some playing around, Use it. It doesn't necessarily have to be that I'm trying to do. Clearly, I'm kind of liberated from having to do anything realistic, because, well, it's not that realistic. So I can pick my colors. I can just be imaginative, playful, but also see at the end whether it continues to look like me. So I'm using colored pencils and just playing around with them. Using my trusty Derwent Inktense pencils. So it's this color. It's an opportunity to color. All right. Every week I bring out this particular 227 Equiline brush pen, yellow ochre, and every week it doesn't work. So this time, actually, I've thrown it on the floor now. My dog will find it. That'll be fun. Yeah, so. Yes, I've been working on this brown paper now throughout the time I've been working on the sketchbook, which is, it's an interesting challenge. It's also super rough, as you can see. So not all materials are awesome on it. I actually haven't even tried watercolor on it. I've just been using gouache because gouache is, to me, it's a bit more tough and resilient. I don't really have an idea of what I'm doing, so that's okay. Just gonna play, see where it goes. Oh good, now he's digging a hole outside of the studio here. I have a choice. I can ask the gardener to come on another day, which I once kind of brought up to him, and he was like, I don't think so. Or I can move Droll with me to another day. Or I can move back to New York City. I'm probably not going to do that. Or I can live with it. As we've been living with it now, you and I have been together on this voyage of this ongoing adventure of gardening. 6 months. No, for long. I was going to say 6 months. I wish it was 6 months. It's been coming on 11 months. No, 9 months. 9 months that we've been in this house with this particular gardener. So, hope you'll forgive me. Yes, it's true. Karen says the gardener adds to the ambiance. We could always sketch him one day. And yes, my wife was urging that at one point. I'm afraid to ask him to actually pose for us, but we did take a photo of him, so we do have him documented. He's a very sweet guy, but he's serious about gardening, as he should be, and not about live streaming on YouTube. Not really his thing. Although maybe he could mow with me, blow with me. That could be his program. A weekly show of making large amounts of noise with garden equipment. Yeah. As I said, not really thinking, just reacting and grabbing art supplies. This reminds me of sort of like modern, so-called modern art that was popular in, I would say, late 50s, early 60s. Does that sound familiar to you at all? There's a certain kind of style that I remember from, like, when I was a kid. My mother had this kind of stuff. I think my grandparents may have had a piece or two. It was this kind of like sort of funky, sort of surreal. Didn't really endure as an art trend, but was groovy and contemporary in its way. So that's sort of where I'm at. Sort of what you might call mid-century modern art. Not sure who exactly would be a proponent of that. Sort of Dali, Salvador. He's not an artist you hear a huge amount about anymore. At least I don't. It's because he's been dead for a long time. But he was a real kind of popular character in that period. Did any of you find it easier to do this sort of a self-portrait than the normal self-portrait? Like, I just know that every time I bring up the idea of doing self-portrait, there's a certain group of people who I won't name who are just like, oh my God, not another self-portrait. I look like hell. The last thing I want is to be forced to do a self-portrait. I haven't had my hair done. I haven't looked in the mirror in a really long time. So yeah, did this make it easier? Where you could, and was it a more idealized version of yourself, perhaps? You're like, yeah, that's what I think I'd like to look like. Speaking of getting your hair done, we use this really kind of bizarre application called Citizen, where you kind of get information about what's going on in your neighborhood. And a lot of it comes down to like police reports. So people post, oh, there was a car accident or stuff like that. Well, so we have become kind of obsessed with this thing because we're always finding out these really bizarre sorts of crimes that are happening in our neighborhood. And first thing this morning, we got one that was that at was it the Walgreens, which is, pharmacy near us, there was a man walking through the parking lot with a pair of scissors, and he was cutting people's hair. Quite sure how that worked, but it seemed like he would go up to people, unsuspecting people, and start hacking at their hair with his pair of scissors. Yeah. There were a lot of hilarious comments about this particular crime, but I'm sure for those who were attacked by some weirdo with scissors, that was not really that much fun. But yeah, that happened. That's Phoenix. That's what's going on in Phoenix today. The Barber of Phoenix. Hey, that could be a nice opera. Yeah. Liz says she never draws people. Liz McLaren. Teresa's on Citizen. That's good to know. This wasn't too bad. What does that mean, I never draw people? You mean you've never gotten around to drawing people? Or you just hate people? Maybe you're just a misanthrope? Is that what it is? Is that what you're telling me? I can understand that. Sometimes people, particularly ones who try to cut other people's hair in drugstore parking lots, can make you really question the entire species and whether you want to have anything to do with it. Particularly the events of the last week have certainly made me question giving up my membership card in the human race. Not really. Love the human race. It's one of my favorite top 10 species. Other top 10? Dogs. Love birds. Manatees. My wife won't like it, but I'll have to say chimpanzees. Orangutans. Yeah. My wife hates monkeys. I hope I'm not outing her here. I hope that we don't get a lot of hate mail because of it, but doesn't like monkeys. Which is ironic because she does love our pug, which is essentially a four-legged monkey. Actually, monkeys have four legs, so it's a monkey that eats dog food. It's true. As Jen points out, my favorites are primarily primates. Yeah, I'm biased. I'm biased to the primate. Maybe it's because I love human beings and anything that resembles them. But, I would go with maybe a mouse. Mouses are cute. When it comes to drawing them, I like to draw elephants. Hippopotamus. It's just because of the name, hippopotamus. It's a good word. I might get into doing some gouache on this thing later on, because I just don't want to get into doing gouache right now because it's too complicated and you just have to watch me opening tubes of paint. But I could also see some gouache coming in here quite handily. Shall I show you the last selfie that I did? Well, there was this one. And there was this one. So yes, I think that this is progress. A step forward. Yeah. So these pencils, I really like the fact that when you, as you just saw, they quickly become watercolor. And they become more dynamic. The color in some ways gets better, but in some ways it needs some help too. These aren't really run-of-the-mill watercolor pencils, these Inktense. I mean, I've had watercolor pencils and they can tend to be a little anemic, but these Inktense ones are, to borrow a phrase, Inktense. So I'm quite a fan of them since discovering them just kind of last year sometime. This feels like one of those paintings that's sort of like, I think I've talked here about Giacometti and how he would work on paintings and then he would spend the whole day working on a painting and then he would scrape it down and redo it. And this feels like one of those paintings that you could just keep kind of adding stuff onto in a sort of mixed media frenzy. So that might be where I go with this. And I'm fortunate in that this paper that was put in this book by my friend Ross Stendhal, she bound it for me, and it is super tough paper. I mean, look at the thickness of this paper. Can you tell how thick it is? I mean, this is like, it's sort of the color of the kind of paper hand towels you'd find in a bus station, and it is the thickness of, it's thicker than construction paper. I was going to say construction paper, it's thicker than that, but it is soft and it is super tough. Like you can keep scrubbing at this thing, and even if it buckles a little bit, it will come back once it dries. It will flatten out. It's great paper, and I'm worried because I only have this many pages left, and I'm more than halfway through it. So, yeah, it does. It sounds thick. It's true, right? It sounds like cardboard almost. Yeah, but it doesn't feel like cardboard. It doesn't really feel like anything else. Boy, paper is so great. Speaking of paper, I'm thinking I want to write a book. Haven't written a book in a while. My last book was called How to Draw Without Talent. And I think I'd like to write another book. I actually have 2 book ideas in mind. I'm a long way from telling you anything about them, but I think it would be nice. Can you see right there over my shoulder? Those are all the books that I've written. 1 copy a piece. So yes, I have like 1.5 foot of books I've written, maybe more. That's what I want to be remembered for, not for the quality of the books necessarily, but just for the amount of space that they take up on a shelf. If you happen to have some empty shelves that you're thinking, that shelf looks really empty, I think a really great solution is to buy at least one copy of each of my books. I mean, I hate to be self-promoting here, but honestly, they make a very nice household accent. I'm very pleased with how they kind of get out of focus in the background. They look really good. I mean, you wouldn't think that that was like 20 years of my life, that little kind of squiggly out of focus clump of color back there. Yeah, that's a grown man's life. A groaning man's life. Reduced to rectangles of paper. You know what's interesting about how I've been coloring this? Probably not a lot, but what's interesting about it to me is I have been as mindless in coloring this as I was sightless in drawing it. So maybe by constantly talking to you about nonsense, I have allowed my subconscious to kind of channel some stuff, to bring some stuff out. And if I'd thought about it a lot, I probably wouldn't have done some of these things. I think that's my struggle, is to shut my brain off. I love my brain. I couldn't live without it. But I gotta say, there are a lot of times when it's a pain in the ass. Particularly at like 3 in the morning. Boy, that is when you just don't want your brain doing much. You want your brain 3 in the morning just like operating, your basic digestive stuff, like just handle that kind of thing, and don't start talking to me about health insurance or the IRS or politics or whatever that stuff. Just leave that stuff off the table or off the mattress and focus on the important stuff, like digesting that Indian food we had last night. It was very good, by the way. Yesterday, my son and his girlfriend Amanda stopped by briefly. They're on their way to Death Valley for a little camping trip. It was nice to see them and to have Indian food, socially distanced in the freezing cold backyard. But yeah. Okay, I think I'm going to continue with this in the Spark after session. After party. We have an after party at Spark after every draw with me. Hang out and keep working. Talk about what's on our minds. And I think that's what we'll do. It's less one-sided. This is just me and you typing. Me talking, you typing. But with Spark, we're all talking. And it can become quite cacophonous. No, it's managed. It's not just like a bunch of people jabbering. It's a bunch of people drawing. But it is lovely to hear hundreds of pens simultaneously scribbling. Yeah, that's one of the nice things about it, is to see a bunch of people sitting together drawing. It's one of my favorite things. Look at this. I made this iris all the way up there. What the hell was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. I was blinded by my mask, wrapped up like a douche in the something of the night. Do you know that song? Blinded by the Light? Who wrote it? It's one of those songs with the incomprehensible lyrics from my youth. Okay. I'm in a blathery mood today, as you can see. It's been fun. If this is your first time to draw with me, I apologize. If it's your last time to draw with me, I understand. But yes, today was a bit odd, but I'm always looking forward to seeing what you did. as you see, the beginning of each episode, we make a little film of all of the things that were made in the previous week. And how do we do that? Because people are kind enough to tag their drawings with hashtag SBS Draw With Me. So if you put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, hashtag SBS Draw With Me, we'll find it, we'll download it, we'll edit it into this film, and you will see it presented with many of its brethren at the beginning of the program. It's always just one of my favorite things is to see all the different ways that people interpret this. And I'd love to see your self-portraits, particularly these blind, crazy, whacked out ones. So do it. Take a picture once you're done. Post it. Tag it. If you're a member of the Sketchbook School Schoolyard, you know what to do. Come to the Draw With Me area and post it up there. So I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to seeing you in Chris's workshop. And I look forward to seeing you here again next week when we have another exciting, nail-biting, cliff-hanging, brain-churning episode of Draw With me, your host, Danny Gregory. Thank you. I'll see you again then.